for Dunkley.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Can I acknowledge the member for Mallee and her commitment to organ and tissue donation? I'm sure, member for Mallee, your niece is incredibly proud of you and what you are doing. And I'd like to echo and join with the member's call for people to register to donate. It is a simple thing to do and it can change so many lives. But before I return to what I wanted to say, having heard the Deputy Leader of the Opposition's speech just then, I do want to say it should be beneath a Deputy Leader of the Opposition to use a bill like this to make a completely unrelated political remarks, and in particular to try to personally draw in the Assistant Minister who is speaking on this bill, which is about saving lives. This parliament deserves better from a Deputy Leader of an opposition who apparently aspires to be at least a Deputy Prime Minister. And it needs to be put on the record that the Assistant Minister in question, the member for Dobell, is doing an outstanding job, and she's absolutely unwavering in her commitment to increasing the health of Australians, including through access to cheaper medicine. Deputy Speaker, this bill, as others have said, shouldn't be a matter of politics and should be bipartisan. And from what I've heard from those opposite, essentially it is, with some not, I guess, unexpected criticism to come from an opposition about process. But the reason this bill goes beyond politics, or always should, is because it genuinely is about saving lives. And others have read out the statistics, but they really do matter. You know, last year alone, 454 organ donors resulted in 1,224 Australians receiving a life-saving organ transplant. One donor, any one person, can save the lives of up to 7 other people and then help many others through eye and tissue donation. And as the member for Mallee pointed out, though, it is quite a restricted situation in which your organs can be donated. You do need to pass away in a hospital with well-functioning organs, and it only equates to 2% of people who die in hospital each year. It's why it's so important to be registered and to make sure your family knows what your requests are, because in 2022, of the 1,400 people who passed away in circumstances which meant they could be organ donors, 1,300 of those people's families were asked to consent, which always happens even if you're registered, and only 701 families said yes, leading to those 454 donors. So if registration was higher and people had conversations, because most Australians, when asked, say that they would like their organs to be donated, families would be in a much easier position to be able to say, yes, you can use my loved one's organs. In fact, once a person is registered, 9 out of 10 families say yes. 9 out of 10 families. So it makes a huge difference. And Donate Life say that there's 3 things that we can do to increase organ and tissue donation. The first is to have specialist donation staff to support families in hospitals. Staff like Jodie Vuat, who works at Frankston Hospital in my electorate, who had an experience overseas working in intensive care, helping with families to consent or to understand the donation process, and came back to Australia wanting to do exactly that, and does that at Frankston Hospital still to this day. So her role is to support families at the time of organ donation. She talks to them about the donation, she explains the process, she supports the hospital and the medical staff. And Jodie, who works in that field, says people need to talk to their families about organ donation. It's really important, she says, to have the conversation with your loved ones so your family is in no doubt about your wishes. The more people who have registered their donation decision, the more transplant recipients we can help, Jodie says. She's out and about in the community, Jodie, raising awareness about organ and tissue donation. And one of the most common myths she encounters is people thinking their organs aren't good enough to be donated. People say, you wouldn't want my liver because I like to have a few drinks. Well, sometimes that might be the case, but it's not always the case. So don't assume that you're too old or too unhealthy to become donors. Register. Register, and that assessment will be done if you are in a position to be an organ donor once you pass away. That's Jodie's message. So Donate Life says, 1, have donation specialist staff. 2, register on the Australian Organ Donor Register. And that's what this bill is intended to assist with, to allow donor families to be out there talking about their experience of their loved one having donated and helped the lives of others. So have specialist staff, register on the Australian Donor Register and talk to your family about donation. Because as I said, only 4 in 10 families say yes to donation if they don't know what their loved ones wanted. So they're 3 easy steps. I've said in this place before that I personally am quite attracted, instead of an opt-in system, to an opt-out system. Donate Life suggests that the 3 steps I've just talked about will increase organ donation. But I still think it's worth us looking at an opt-out system so that there are more people who, when they are in the situation of 2% of deaths in a hospital which can lead to donation, who are able to be a donor with the consent of their families. But it wouldn't take away the need to talk to your families about what you want. The other thing I wanted to talk about in terms of donation is, whilst Jodie is right, don't assume that because you have a few drinks or you're not a spring chicken that your organs aren't fit for donation. But there are people who can't donate their organs because of diseases like metastatic cancer, just to name one, but still want to, when they pass, contribute to better medicine and the lives of others. So you can donate your body to science. And I've had a look at it, and I looked at it again today. There isn't actually a national register for donating your body to science. How it works in Australia is each state regulates it slightly differently, but in effect, you have to donate your body to a specific university and go through their scheme. And you have to fill in all the paperwork before you pass away to do so. And there are a number of limits to that. For example, University of Melbourne, you have to pass away within 40 kilometres of the university. Donating your body to science means that your body is used to help train doctors, nurses, pharmacologists, research scientists. In some circumstances can be used for research, to helping to train the very people that will go on to save other people's lives. So I think that's an incredibly worthy thing to consider if you are in a position where you can't donate your body, your organs and your tissues to other people to use. There's probably more work to be done in that space to make that easier, I think, for people to donate their bodies and their loved ones to donate their bodies to science in an effective way. So there's a task for the future, but I think it's something that is absolutely worth doing. Before I conclude, I just want to talk very briefly about a young man in my electorate who I've mentioned his friends in the parliament before, Dylan Briggs, who went to Frankston High School and died tragically riding his bike home from school in March of 2020 in a very difficult time for everyone during the pandemic, and then his family had to deal with the fact that this young man in his teenage years was killed just on his way home. Dylan was an organ donor. Dylan was a teenager and was an organ donor, and he has saved lives through that act as a young man. And his friends are continuing to this very day to do all they can to honour Dylan. They set up something called the Chill Out and Look About initiative, which is about road safety, and have collaborated with local police and others to make videos, to go out and talk to young people about road safety. And they designed the logo and the emblem for Chill Out and Look About as a character modelled on a photo of Dylan, where Dylan looks like he's on watch, looking out for everyone's safety. So his legacy after his tragic circumstances is to donate organs for other people's lives to be able to continue, and for his friends to take up a cause to save other young people's lives on the roads. So I wanted to congratulate Dylan's friends and to shout out to Sarah Jane, Dylan's mum, who's an incredibly strong woman after the loss of her son. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I thank the